Don't let your memes be dreams. Just do it. It's called evolution.
I'm always interested to hear about how worlds are conceptualized because it's always such a big
It's improv writing. Like, that's how I see it.
Science is human to edit device.
I got really excited when I joined up and I fell into the rabbit hole. We're going to
This community's getting... You're getting old.
I love having new blood.
Hi, everybody, and welcome back to Lacie's Box podcast, Chatterbox episode 2. Today's topic is why is RP? Again, if you're just joining us for this episode, I'm Citty, and I'm joined here by the other two hosts, Arc and Ollie. So we decided to do introductions a little bit different this time around. If you listened to our previous podcast episode, thanks very much, and we hope you continue to support this endeavor. We're still trying to work our way around the technicalities, but we hope you can bear with us just while we figure things out. But we decided to introduce ourselves a little bit differently today and for the succeeding episodes. And the way we're going to be doing this is, well, a question is going to be our prompt. So we're each going to be taking turns answering question of the day or for the episode. And today's question prompt thing is, since this is RP, what is your favorite type of character to roleplay in a roleplay setting? So basically, what's your favorite personality? How do they act? Maybe if it's a trope. And I'm going to get Ollie to answer that question first. Hello.
Wow.
Yeah,
So
I only thought right away.
Like you say,
I'm
Ollie goes
just-
first when you're already talking.
Yes.
Exactly. Like how could you volunteer?
Because I asked
somebody
the
else.
question first, so I need someone else to answer
This
it.
This is sexism, isn't it? Is this because I'm the only guy in this call? Is it?
No, we're all entities in the universe.
Yeah,
That is fair.
I'm
That
is-
neither male nor female. I am a threat.
Why doesn't the threat
I
go
identify
first?
and as an enigma.
This is discrimination, but
identify
oh
as
well,
a threat.
whatever.
Oh.
Okay. I'll answer the question.
Yes.
And then we'll go around.
Then we'll go around. Yes.
I generally like playing characters that are very, like, free. Like, very, not necessarily airy, but like a character with a lot of possibility
Mhm.
for growth and change. Because I don't really have, when I make a character, I don't really have anything set in stone.
Mhm.
So I like being able to grow a character during the RP itself. So I kind of go with the flow of, oh, this seems to be where my character is taking me. So I'll make him like this. So if I had to say a kind of character specifically, just somebody who's, it's like a sapling, you know, it's still growing, nothing definite. You don't know what's gonna come out. It could turn into a tree. It could be a symbiote life form. You never know. Yeah.
Sounds like you got a little sore throat there. You want to drink some water? Oh man.
It's fine. I'm always thirsty anyway. It's all good.
Holy
All
cow.
good.
Okay. Arc, you're up next.
Wow, I really go. Okay, fine, whatever.
Yes.
Yes, I'm Arc.
I'll answer it
and
last. Because I don't know what to
I
say.
am known to RP. You're fine.
You act like I didn't know what to say.
Yeah,
This is
I-
you
But
prepared
you
for
had an
question.
answer. You
So
had an answer, so it's good.
That's called.
Yeah,
Never mind.
Bro.
You will not. Oh, I'm trying to avoid swearing.
Just
Try to
get
avoid
out
swearing.
of this, man.
It's
Come on,
okay.
it's gonna be. It's okay. It's okay. We're chill. We're chill. Okay,
Okay.
I'm
Being
Arc,
chilly. Being chilly.
and IRP.
Arp.
IRP. I can't speak. IRP. Tragic gay sociopaths. I think it's just
Excellent.
probably the. I think that's the summary of everything I always end up RPing. Like even if I don't mean to. Like even if they're straight, they're gay. You know, even
I like
if they're
that.
absolutely straight, you just look at them and you think they're probably gay. And like more specifically, there's always gonna be something wrong with them because I don't like playing a perfect character. That's boring as heck. I always want something not necessarily wrong, but there's always something off. Something to explore about the character, something that's a little bit off kilter from reality in a way that can always make you explore some theme in an extreme fashion. And it's always fun to play with. You can always do some symbolisms and stuff like that. Yeah.
Yes.
Although I'm not gonna lie,
This
I
man
think every
gay.
character
This
I've
man
played
gay.
has been more horrible than the last that I've played, so there's that.
Oh boy, it's like just a slow spiral down, descending
Yeah,
to madness.
it's just
Amazing.
like forward. Anyway,
I like it.
Arcane, would you like to talk about your mental state? Are you okay?
Are you okay? Who is okay? Anyone?
There's no such thing as okay in this world, man.
Oh,
That is
no,
fair.
it's too
That is
early to
fair.
fair.
ask
It's an illusion.
existential crises questions. Stop.
Okay,
Hey,
yeah, okay.
hey,
oh,
Hey,
This was okay.
It's evening
to be
for- it's
fair,
nighttime
I
for
meant
us.
this to be
It's
much
late
more
enough.
lighthearted. Okay.
Okay, fair. It is
Okay.
nighttime there, isn't it? Like, whew.
Yeah, it is nighttime
Not
over
for us,
here.
It's sad boy hour. It's sad boy hours.
It's sad
already,
boy
right?
hours. Jeez.
Oh, every hour is sad boy hour for me.
No.
That is fair. That is
sad boy
fair.
24/7.
No.
Amen.
Hey.
It's we're just built different, you know. We didn't choose the sad boy life. The sad boy life chose us.
No. This is a daily reminder to take care of yourself, please. Oh God.
Try.
Oh,
You know that joke? It's like all my jokes are a cry for help. You know, I think it was like Princess Bubblegum or something from Adventure Time.
man. Everything's getting real too quickly. No.
Okay.
Anyway,
We're only
moving
a
on
few
to the
minutes
next
in.
answer. Yeah?
We're-
City, how about you? What's your character trope?
I don't know. That's why I asked you guys to go first.
Oh my god, this guy.
This is that person in a classroom when the teacher asks, who has the answer? And then they point at somebody else.
Yes.
Like-
I don't know.
and I
That guy
don't
knows.
I don't get called because I'm a good student.
I see what's going on.
I think lately I've seen myself just so I keep like a list of character personalities that I have role played, and every time I engage in a new role play setting, I always try not to make the same kind of character. So I can't. That's actually another reason I can't really pinpoint a specific trope that I follow, because I kind of want to be able to explore all those different personalities. So, for example, I've already done like an innocent girl type character, then maybe the next one would be an innocent boy character, but I can't do the same person twice for some reason. It feels like I'm drawing it out for too long, I guess. At some point it'll circle back, because like it's kind of hard to figure out completely unique traits, but I think I always like to challenge myself to try not to make the same template all the time. It is a little difficult, especially if I have a good idea. But I think so far that's the trend that I'm noticing. I haven't had two similar personalities. There are definitely there are similarities, but not completely like congruent.
If I would suggest, I think that the one thing that's very distinct about each of the characters you've ever played is that they've always had they've got a distinct look to them. Is one thing. I think
Oh,
Because
I
I
would've
draw
never-
my own OCs.
Figured that part out.
yeah, no, not just the fact that they're
Not
OCs,
just
but
the-
like
okay.
design wise, I feel like they have like, okay, like some people gravitate towards similar OCs. I mean, similar face claims, right?
Face
But, like,
claims,
I
yeah.
feel like yours are like more than the personality. I feel like the look has to vary quite a bit. Like you always go for a different look for each character.
Oh
So-
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
Yeah, but at the same time, I feel that their look is always most indicative of their personality. So I feel like they always tend to be, in a way, they're always fashionable people, because you know what I mean. Like you don't
Fair.
see anyone that
None of
looks
Citti's
plain
characters.
Jane and generic.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
They always have to have a look that
have a-
exudes their personality.
They gotta, I don't
agree.
know, is a quirky thing? I do have like a
Yeah.
qualifier for myself when I make characters is, if I can't turn them into memes, what's the point of making them?
Then there's that, you know. is that
There's
you could say that you're always making memeable characters.
Okay.
that is
then
true.
okay,
That's I guess that's the character trait there, right there.
that's the trope I'm going for. Thanks, guys. I now have
Don't
an
let
answer.
your memes be dreams.
They
Just
are-
do it.
I have just done it, and it's great.
Exactly. Great.
Oh, man.
Fantastic.
And speaking of upcoming roleplays, I suppose you guys have seen the poster for what is it? The next chapter. of LP.
The next, of course I did. I helped make the
You
poster.
made the poster.
Yeah, it's my only job.
No, aren't you the only one in the team? No.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
I'm like the only. That's literally the.
We
only...
had we put out an what's this called, a recruitment notice
Recruitment
last
of the first
RP.
Yeah, but we
episode,
haven't
yeah.
like posted the episode yet. Yeah, guys, when we
As of
recorded
his-
this episode, we haven't really posted
We will.
the
No,
first
you'll see
episode
it.
yet.
You'll see it soon. Don't
You'll
worry.
see it soon, ideally.
Yeah.
But anyway,
Yeah. No.
if anyone wants to join the Lacey's art team, please message
Join it.
Arcane.
Yeah.
Again.
They need help.
We've had an admin meeting on it. We'll figure it out. It's cool. It's cool.
Yeah.
But yeah, the upcoming role plays do look quite. I think both of you probably know which one I'm giving eyes at. If it's not obvious, I'm pretty sure it well.
Do you want to
those who know me
promote? Do you want to promote the two role plays that are coming up?
Sure.
just gotta-
Okay, so the upcoming. Okay, so we only have part 1 out right now because we've been restructuring, so we don't want to release part 2 yet. But part 1 are the 2022 RPs of Heirs of Virlin and Quaresma. I can't remember the full title of Quaresma because I'm really bad at Tagalog.
The Blight of Matandagat.
Again.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The Blight- thanks so much for remembering things I won't remember. But
Don't
in
worry, I didn't remember. I just opened up the
Oh,
page.
okay.
Now.
good enough. But yes, Virulin will be a sort of cowboy fantasy thing going on, and Quaresma's definitely gonna be a horror, so I'm looking forward to that. Hopefully joining. And
Nice.
the one who made Virulin is the same creator of Move
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Which one was the other one? The mecha one?
Goliath.
Goliath.
Thank you. Also worked on Goliath. Yes. So, but the ones doing Quaresma are a new mod, so it should be exciting to see what direction they're going. Whenever it's a new mod team, they always do something a bit different. So, I mean, it's always gonna be more hectic behind the scenes because they're gonna be learning a lot of things on the fly. But in
Yeah.
terms of what they bring to the table, though, it's always something exciting.
Mm-hmm. Isn't it kind of fascinating that we've been doing RP for so long that it's kind of like you can create an analogy between it and actual films. So the way that we're advertising it right now kind of sounds like the equivalent of like Marvel DC
That is
universe. and then when something new comes out from a newer assemblage of mods, it's kind of like the equivalent of like an indie film, because you haven't heard of it yet.
Almost. It's pretty cool because
Yeah.
when you think about it, it's from the minds behind the scene of blank,
Yeah.
from the creators of Toy Story or something. It's man, this community is getting old.
You're getting old.
Shut up. Shut
Okay,
up.
We're
but
just talking
it's true.
about
I mean, like, okay, chapter 5 means 5 years, man. 5 years.
Yeah.
And that's not even the community. The community is older than LB itself in a way because, again, as we discussed
Yeah.
previous episode, a lot of people have migrated here from another smaller community.
Yeah.
And it's just growing every year. And now I think the thing that's amazing about it being big enough
Mm-hmm.
that we can make comparisons is also that it's big enough that we can be self-referential and speak our own like local language, you know, like we can talk about like, oh, it's gonna be something like this ish, and we'll know because everyone was part
were
of
there.
that RP experience.
We all
yeah,
know.
yeah.
Yeah, I think it's interesting about I think and a lot of it is like community focus. I mean, it depends on the community because like if we didn't really have people
From
who are-
the community, by the community.
or the community,
For
like the government. Oh no, political. No, let's go back. But if you notice that chapter 5, in comparison to the previous chapters, there's only 2 public role plays lined up for this year, and I think that was like a general decision to. Well, on one end, it's because one of them, another RP that was slated for this year, wasn't able to be executed in time. So instead of trying
do the rest.
to, instead of trying to fit in another role play in that would-be time slot, administrative team opted to use it as a time for people to recover in between, because a lot of the RP fatigue burnout comes from doing too many, and like we established before, 4 chapters essentially means 20 roleplays in the span of the 4 years this group has been around.
Yeah. And it's
so-
it's gonna bring out burnout whether we want it or not.
Mhm,
Because
mhm.
like
sure.
not necessarily just from the mod or the admins, but from the players too. Because they're although we're shifting on it a bit now, players
Yeah.
Players who love roleplay can't help but be active. Like they can't help
Yeah,
themselves. Like if
it's an
something's on
addiction.
the table, they're gonna eat it.
I gotta
Oh,
You
have
my
it.
shouldn't.
God.
You're full, but you're gonna eat it. You're like,
Man, I
"Oh,
always have
slow
room
down, bud.
for
That's
dessert."
bad for
This
your
is not a good
digestion."
comparison, my dude.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is like,
Would
y'all
you rather
wild
I talk-
animals.
Yeah, I mean that's how it is.
It's
That's
called
how-
evolution.
Yeah, you have to admit that the reason that our community is thriving so much is also because it's so voracious. But like, okay,
I mean, that is
okay,
true.
let's backtrack a bit. I feel like we've sunk our teeth really deep into the subject that we were going to handle without even going to the start of this, which is
No,
that,
that's. Go ahead.
right? Like we just like jumped into like 10 steps forward, but the whole reason that we want to discuss this phenomenon is because roleplay itself as a phenomenon is already very interesting, and that we've managed to build a whole community around it, right?
Mhm.
So like, I mean, just okay, fine. In a way, that was our rev up into this discussion because like
Sure,
you see
sure.
how
It was
much
all
it's
planned.
grown. Like you see
Yes.
how much it's grown and how much people want it. Like why is it even a thing? Like why do we love RPing so much, and how, like, what is it, and why is it so big, and why are people so into it, and why is this so enticing?
Mhm.
You know?
Mhm.
I think that is interesting. Like,
Oh.
what are your guys' first experiences with roleplay? Not necessarily from the Lacey's community, but role playing, like just role playing.
Yeah, like on a first impression, I'm not gonna lie, RP for me did
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like when I think of RP before I joined Lacey's, it was not anything like the Lacey's experience. But that was because one of the biggest differences was the anonymity role, but also just the level of RP in Lacey's box. Because before that, I had maybe done a little D&D, but I was like 8, so I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was like,
You're having
I
fun.
think I did. Yeah, I did some D&D when I was 8 with my brothers who have like an 8-year age gap on me. So you can imagine how that played out.
Mhm.
And then other than that, it was a damn Pokemon forum, guys. I was like 13. We were just
Understandable,
like,
understandable.
Yeah, we played as Pokemon
Okay.
trainers. It was very, very light. The most you could get in that text-based forum RP was maybe, you were lucky if you got like 1 paragraph in with 3 sentences. It was that kind of pace of RP. So this Lacey's Box experience is something else.
Yeah, it's definitely a shift for what. Well, I mean, because my first roleplay experience was actually on DeviantArt in the comments. I never used forum-based roleplay,
Ooh.
so I went
I
straight to it.
see.
Also because I did a lot of art, so I've been drawing my OC since the beginning. But before we get into that, much like even deeper, sinking your teeth even deeper into the subject, I almost forgot to introduce the title of today's episode, which is basically why is RP, and that's just like an amalgamation, like a shorthand version of the actual question that we're trying to ask today, which is what is roleplay and why is it even a thing? Because as mentioned earlier from all the examples we've been talking about, there is actually a lot of therapeutic benefit to it, as there are detriments. And I think first episode we also mentioned that in LP specifically, there seems to be like a trend of like a format going into the roleplay. I think you heard, was it Sarah last time mentioned the double brackets thing? And I think we can get into that a little bit today as well. But
Like
yeah.
that LB has its own unique system of RPing as well.
Mhm,
so I guess a good way to start is, how do you guys define roleplay?
Well,
Since you're
okay. I guess
I was just about to say dibs, not it.
Yeah, it's okay.
I went first
Don't
last
worry.
time,
I
so-
understand. I
Sorry.
could tell from the way you were going. That you didn't want to answer the question.
There's only 3 people in
No,
this class.
no. I'll answer it. Just don't let me go first.
Yeah,
Don't put
yeah,
me on the
yeah.
spot.
You'll go second.
It's okay.
Fine. It's better than nothing, I guess.
Okay, it's okay for me. Roleplay is definitely something closer to like. I mean, I think it's self-explanatory, right? Like it's
Mhm.
playing a role. Like it.
Yeah.
For me, the closest that I can compare roleplay to is actually like improv. It's improv
Mhm,
writing.
mhm,
Like that's how I see it. Like not improv writing. It's really improv with friends and but it's with a lore and I think it's that. It's like you're given a set lore and then you improvise. You create a character, you play it. It's a sandbox in its own way if you want to. So it's like improv as a game.
Mhm.
Yeah, that's how I would define RP. It's creative improv.
This is the same definition you'd give to somebody who's like, when they ask you, what is RP? And they've never RP'd in their life before. Do you
Yeah,
think-
I would probably say it like that. I'll be like, do you have any idea what like improv theater is like? And then I'll just
Yeah,
explain.
probably.
It's kind of like that, except you have lore. You're
You
given
have-
lore first, and then you can improv.
And then you can improv, right? That's true. 'Cause-
It's hard though because
Mhm.
I think when you're coming from viewing it as improv theater,
Uh-huh.
but in writing form, it
Yeah.
gives a very distinct vibe of difference because
Uh-huh.
I know a lot of people who would probably never set foot on a stage and act improv, but
Mhm.
would write it out.
Right? Exactly. That's what's so enticing about it too.
So much, yeah. There's so much freedom.
That's why I'm a
Behind
voice
just
actor,
right.
guys. I don't want to be on stage, but I want to act.
I want to be a voice actor. Damn. Anyway, but
You
yeah.
could.
Hey,
There's a lot of
don't
trailers.
let your dreams just be dreams.
Don't let
Don't
dreams
your
be
dreams
memes.
just be memes.
Okay, sorry.
Okay. Sorry. You were answering Ollie. You were answering
Yeah.
Ollie.
Go ahead.
Yeah. For me, it's a bit different because I've always been heavily into video games ever
Mhm.
since I was like high school and stuff.
Mhm.
So I've always been into like JRPGs, Japanese role-playing games, where you play like the hero who
That's true.
saves the world or whatever.
Mm.
So I've always thought of roleplay as like what you guys are saying is given a lore, you play a certain character within that lore,
Mhm.
and you sort of define yourself as that character while going through with it. Oh my god, wow. Because my first experiences with RP would be video games, and actually this fanfiction site called fanfiction.net.
Oh my god.
Oh,
I haven't been
wow.
there in years.
Yeah, it's
Is that
like
still even
that was.
alive? Let me check right now.
I think I'm pretty sure the website's still up, dude. It's
It's
huge
somewhere.
site.
Aren't
It's
everybody
somewhere in
aren't
the dark web.
aren't everybody
Uh,
isn't everyone not everyone haven't people migrated to AO3?
Archive of our own.
Yeah, Archive.
I actually have no idea. I'm not updated with
Oh
fanfiction.net,
my god,
but
it's still alive.
Yeah, I
Holy
know.
cow.
it's still alive, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm not surprised. It's still
Okay.
alive.
Go ahead.
But that was my first experience with a text-based RP. So I guess it's sort of like what you were saying with DeviantArt. I was just like, hey, I wonder if there's won't mention for weeaboo purposes. Wonder if there's a anime fanfiction. Reads through it. There's a forum. What is this forum? Explores. And then I noticed that one of the first forum threads was original character creation for roleplay. And I was like, yo, what is this?
actually.
Wow.
Yeah.
So I opened that up and I
That
see
sounds
like
drama.
different formats
Yeah.
and people making different characters. I was like, oh my god, I get to play a character in my favorite anime with other people who are like me.
Yeah.
Damn,
that
sign me
is-
up. So,
Nice.
made a character
is
right there
awesome.
and descent into madness begins,
Mhm, mhm.
I mean, like, yeah, bring it back to like what was said about how it's got its own therapeutic purposes. I think that's one big one. It's
Mhm.
just it opens up the door of a community, but like leaving you with you can immerse yourself in one of your most favorite things with other people,
Mhm.
and it's got the safe distance of it being fiction. Like
Mhm.
you can insert your own, you can exert your own creative willpower onto something that you really love. So it gives you such a sense of like I want to say like involvement and almost ownership over a part of something that you really enjoy.
I totally agree with that.
Yeah,
I totally
right?
agree with that.
Like, I wasn't even thinking of that because, as I said, one of my first RPs was like D&D, and then it was like Pokemon, which I wasn't really that into, so I never really saw
no.
RP as that kind of thing. No, because my friend brought me into it. So,
Oh, I see.
like,
Okay.
you know, it's like, but because I know a lot of people are into that, like the whole RP of X fandom kind of thing. Like, it's another unique way to enjoy your fandom because, you know, some people read fanfic, some people just prefer to consume, some people like to create, and I guess that if you're into creation, that's one way to do it. You know, especially if you can't like draw or make videos or stuff, you can just write. You can like write and interact. It's not as lonely as fanfic in that way because you can interact with
That
people.
sounds so sad. It's not as lonely as fanfiction,
Yeah.
guys. You know.
Yeah, I mean, like, fanfiction's lonely, man. You just write it and you don't know if anyone's gonna read it.
Well, yeah, I think the difference is that I think I had this conversation with you a one-time arc about content creation or like art in general, like where you show your artwork to. It feels a little bit more fulfilling to do in a community that's already receptive to it, instead of trying to find a community to put it into. 'Cause,
Yeah, I think that this is like reaching into that specific topic a bit more, like about like creative therapy. But rather than creative therapy, this feels like therapy for the creatives. Like, in a way.
Okay, fair.
Creators therapy.
Creators therapy. Yes, good term.
Right? Because
Fun
it's
fact.
so like different. What?
Oh no, go ahead, Arcane.
Oh no, I was just gonna say like, cause it's so different. Like when you're a creative person, say like me, like, cause I love making stories, and I used to make comics all the time. But honestly, the reception of when you write you put your heart into it, you write lore, you create a comic character, and you draw it, you write everything, publish it yourself, and then the reception you get is usually about what at best you're already feeling pretty good that you can get maybe 50 people to read it, and then like 1 or 2 people will comment, and then it's so much work and there's so little like
Feedback?
reception.
Mhm.
Yeah,
reception,
and like
yeah.
you're not even getting paid for this, you know. So like it's like I
A
feel
struggle.
like you're just like slowly emptying yourself out and nothing to show for it. Whereas in RP, because you can feel the play aspect a bit more. Like you don't feel pressured that you need to succeed per se, but you're still getting feedback and you're still getting something out of it by people responding to you, by knowing that someone's reading and caring about what you're writing because you're interacting with them. It's so
The affirmation.
therapeutic. Yeah, it's so much affirmation as someone who just has so much creative energy to spend, you know.
Yeah, that's
it's
true.
therapeutic for a creative person because you
So
know,
it's
you have a lot of frustrated energy, like I just want to make something and enjoy it again.
I just want to
That's
get it out.
That is fair.
It's
But
so it's
yeah.
creative therapy
One of
as
my-
much as it is creators therapy. Sorry about that,
Mhm.
Ollie. Go ahead.
One of my friends, he did his thesis
Mhm.
on D&D as a therapeutic activity,
Mhm.
where people get to immerse themselves in a roleplay style, so they get to explore parts of themselves that in other spaces they probably wouldn't feel safe enough exploring.
Uh-huh.
But since it's in a controlled environment with people they trust, they can sort of explore different sides of themselves and just really, you know, I guess unlock areas that they never thought existed in the first place. And I feel like that also
When your character
is the same
hits
with
home.
Mhm.
yeah. It's because since everyone feels like it's such a safe place, they can really explore ideas that they might be too shy or too afraid to talk about in other places.
Mhm, mhm. That's good. Actually, you know, that's also my postgraduate thesis.
Yeah, that's why. I was like, pretty cool.
I think a lot
I
of people researching it now.
It's good. It's great, actually, because there's not as much. Well, there is quite a bit for a pioneering subject, like quite a bit of resource. It's just that they're scattered and in so different media.
I think there's a big boom on the research into it, especially
Right,
after
yeah,
Stranger
Nowadays.
Things. Because of
Um,
Stranger Things, you know, they brought.
Oh,
that
right,
online
because
and
of
they
the
were like,
D&D.
Oh, D&D, what's that?
Yeah. Oh, that's
I liked
actually-
D&D
that's actually
before
true.
it was
So,
cool.
I
Oh,
have
boomer.
I haven't watched Stranger Things, but I do
Same.
know that they did have that scene where they were all playing the game,
Yeah,
and I guess
I
now that you
also know
mention
that.
it, maybe that's why. That's because they got interested into it. But
I think this is a whole other topic, though. The re-emergence of nerd culture to the mainstream.
oh
The
boy,
emergence
do we want to get
of
into
nerd-
that? Oh, I guess we could at some point if there's enough,
different topic.
interest.
That's a different topic.
If there's enough
I think-
interest for it. But sorry, yeah, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, I think that like the reemergence of it as an interest, I think doesn't necessarily need to be covered here, but I think it's very relevant to bring it
for
up
sure,
in
for
this
sure.
discussion, because I think it's why it's so effective now as therapy, because it's like becoming so available. Like people have gotten interested in it, and people are just now seeing how useful it is. Because
Mhm.
honestly, if you look into media that tends to depict roleplay, it does tend to have that kind of coming of age quality to it. Like, it's all about the Karadev by paralleling whatever's going on in the simulated world to the real one. I know I saw some weird ass movie, like indie movie, that was about some dude who was power tripping as a DM, and then by
Oh.
the end he like learned not to do that. That kind of thing.
Now
that
I'm-
was
interesting.
not cool.
Now I am a
And-
better person.
Yeah, now I am now a better person because I realize that my actions have consequences.
Yeah.
Because
Like, as a
these
person who's
people
been on Reddit,
care.
I also understand the sentiment very well.
Reddit,
Yeah.
oh boy.
Yes, you should see. There are like D&D horror stories on Reddit. Like,
I
this
have-
DM was just like disgusting for
Uh-huh.
Yeah,
X
yeah,
reasons,
yeah,
and you
yeah.
just see that at least before, like the stereotypical DM was like, oh, the unsociable fat kid or something. The
Yeah.
unsociable kid
Oh.
who doesn't know how to communicate. Those kind of stereotypes. But now it's very free. It's
Mhm.
become mainstream, and I'm all for it, man.
Yeah, people are learning. Using the simulated space as a way to explore yourself with a little bit of self-reflection and distance in there is really good for the lost soul. you
No,
know?
actually, that's actually the reason why. So I mentioned I was also doing it for my postgraduate thesis, is because it's a
Mhm.
simulated space that there's a lot of potential to actually test out a behavior in that space without impacting
Mhm.
too big of a community. So it's a really good tool for social skills development if you have a competent dungeon master, or in this
Yeah,
case,
that's the
roleplay moderators.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
You got the mods.
yeah, so it's the
very
same.
accommodating.
Same analogy. And again, there's also like, what is it? If you want to go into talking about the rules, we won't have to do it like so deeply, but there you do touch on it. There's like in a D&D session, there's like that session 0 part where you figure out where
Set
everybody's.
expectations.
Uh-huh. Yeah.
Figure out where everybody's coming from,
You're-
what everyone wants to see,
Mhm.
what nobody wants to see.
The boundaries and
Yes, the boundaries.
yeah, and I think a lot of another point of conversation that usually comes up is especially nowadays because they like trigger warnings and everything.
Yeah.
That's
It's become
yeah.
bigger now. I mean, like
Mhm.
trigger warnings is a fairly recent phenomenon.
yeah.
But the roleplay is not.
No.
But, so
yeah.
like when you introduce the trigger warnings to the D&D space, and you actually start to see how much more relevant the psychological aspect is in role-playing, because you realize how effective fiction can be in triggering a response in someone.
Yeah, and
Oh,
it,
for sure.
yeah. I mean, it's not, and it's not even just in like the roleplay aspect. Even in novel, literature, media, everything. Like even movies, they're just like, hey, this scene has a lot of blood in it, so that's already automatically a trigger warning for people who don't like that.
I just also find this interesting because
Mhm.
when you talk about this trigger warning, right? It's
Mhm.
usually something that happens in person, usually. Because like for D&D, that's a usually in-person kind of activity.
Mhm.
So people get to immediately express, oh, I didn't like that for this reason. I'm sorry, you can talk about it, right?
Player
But
will
over an
remember
RP
that. Okay, go ahead. No.
Like for the RP, I just find it interesting that there's sort of a anonymous, you don't know who you're talking to in the other side. So you're not always sure what you can say because you don't know, like, oh, are they okay with this kind of humor?
Mhm,
Or
mhm.
is this kind of topic off limits to this person? You kind of just have to, throw darts at a board and hope nothing lands.
Yeah.
Hope
But I
to
mean,
land
that's
on
what
appropriate
the
topics.
But that's what the etiquette rules are for, you know? Like, if you
Yeah.
want to
Yeah,
bring up
yeah.
something, you do your best to bring up a drawing. But at the same time, that's why it's not, like, immediately sanctionable if
Mhm,
you do trigger someone. But it is if you don't respect them. Like, you can tap a mod's shoulder and go, like, something they said made me very uncomfortable and I don't know how to bring it up. So then that mod can now approach the player and they can probably either edit or at least place warnings so that the person they're RPing with can now avoid further discussing uncomfortable topics to them.
Yeah.
And that's,
Actually,
I mean, that's what's useful about mods, right?
mhm, mhm.
Yeah.
Sure.
Actually, this might be a good time to bring up that anonymity rule you brought up earlier, Arc.
Oh,
You-
yeah.
Yeah, because
Oh.
Ollie said something about how you don't know the other person on the other end. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming this is going into, like, in terms of the literary aspect, like you said, role playing on forums and everything, because people on the internet are strangers essentially, right? So
Trolls.
Yeah.
mhm.
Getting a little bit anecdotal, it does feel very like there's some taking a moment to give comparison and contrast. Even
Mhm.
within LB, it's actually still very different because, as I said, I went into a forum RP, and I think, like, you know, Ollie, your mention of the fanfiction RP works into this
Yes,
as well
yeah.
because, like, we don't know these people offline.
Mm-mm-mm-mm.
But in LB, we might kind of know these people offline because the
Uh-huh.
community is by invite, so we kind of know them. But the characters themselves are anonymous. So, because
Uh-huh.
the difference being, like, when you operate somewhere outside of LB, you can easily approach the person in PM and, like, tell them, "Oh, I didn't like that. That wasn't cool," because you don't know them. And you
Mhm.
don't really, like, you know, you don't really care what they think in a way because
It's
they
true.
are not
Mhm.
that different from their character. It's like they play a character, but as a person, they're also not that separate as an entity in your mind. But
Mhm.
in LB, these people might know your friends. They might be your friend's friends. This might be your friend, and you wouldn't know.
Mhm.
Or maybe you would know, but you might be wrong. And then,
It's
but so
mystery.
it makes you, like, extra nervous in a way because you don't want to,
Uh-huh.
like, get up in their face and offend anyone, especially if they might start talking to your friend's friend and your friend, you know, it goes back to you and you get found out that you said something or that you maybe quote unquote whined about something. You don't want to come across that way anyway.
Yeah, for sure.
So
But I just find it. Go ahead. Yeah.
no, I was just gonna say that comparing to as an anonymity aspect, it's a very different experience in LB. But for me, I like it a lot more because I do prefer to really have the character feel like a completely separate entity, which is not what happens in any other place because I don't know these people. But in LB, I kind of do, so it feels even more like I'm just interacting with a creation than it is the person, you know. And I think that that's always the benefit of that's the interesting thing about the anonymity role is that you can now create something completely separate from you and which can be interacted with in a way that you don't feel needs to be directed at you, you know?
Mhm.
Like, if I create something anonymously, then when people respond to them, I don't feel like they're responding to me. They're responding to my character because obviously I'm anonymous, you know? They don't know it's me.
Yeah.
Well, they might know
Uh-huh.
it's me, but I can pretend they don't know it's me.
But pretend
But
I
isn't
do
that
not
also
see it.
like
Go
part
ahead.
of that feeling? Or for some people, take things like they take attacks on their character as personal attacks. Like, you know, you having to separate, even in a safe community
Yeah.
that we do have for sure. It's very safe, guys.
Mhm.
It's not
Don't
perfect,
get us
but
wrong.
mods
Yeah.
do their
just,
best.
just a disclaimer: we're not pointing fingers in this discussion. It's really just an
For sure.
like
It's just-
it's just what we've observed going on because again, this is the topic of the episode for today.
Thing, yeah.
We're trying to look
Yeah.
at into why people actually enjoy RP and sometimes why
Because-
they don't enjoy it. So
But yeah, like one of the things I found interesting was like, you know, people RP for different purposes for sure, right?
Yeah.
Some people just have a character they want to put out there and
Mhm.
interact with other characters. Some
Uh-huh.
characters want to be part of the main story. And some just kind of, you know, want to mess around maybe.
yeah.
It's kind of be a meme, right?
Mhm, mhm.
So like I find it funny that given a certain lore, these people with different objectives, so to say,
Yeah.
are all interacting together. And some people for some it breaks immersion
Mhm.
because like, oh, here's this very serious story, and then this guy is just kind of like running around making fart jokes or something.
And it's
Oh, yeah.
interesting.
Like,
yeah.
There's
it
always
feels
one
very
guy.
out of place. But like,
and it's fine.
yeah, the thing is, like, is it wrong to feel in a way wrong because you're here trying to have a
Mhm.
very serious, very very serious down to earth story where your character's involved with the main plot, but then there's this like rando who you keep interacting with, not by your own choice, but because maybe another player likes your character, so they jump into your thread, like chasing you around, and they keep making these like fart jokes. Just an example,
Yeah.
I don't know anybody who actually does this.
You mean like your character? Just kidding. Sorry.
Wow.
I feel that there's always one joke character, and I do.
There is.
Yeah,
since
but
I
like
have,
just an example.
Yeah.
Like if there wasn't, you want to play very serious,
Yeah.
but then one of the characters making jokes.
Mhm.
Is it okay for you to sort of feel annoyed at that? Because
I think. Well,
Oh,
okay.
yeah,
Here's
it's
the
good.
question. Sorry, just to clarify your question, you're asking if it's okay to feel annoyed, or do you mean is it okay to act on your annoyance? Because those are very different things. Because I think it's always okay to feel whatever you feel. If
That is
you're
true.
annoyed, that's your feelings, bro.
Yeah,
You can't
yeah.
help it. That's okay. But if
Yeah,
you mean to you can't. I don't think it's fair to get mad at the RPer
Yeah.
for it, especially if it passed through the mods. Here's the other thing. It's always up to the mod team, I think, whether or not they will allow it.
Mhm.
Like, if you if you come in with an application for a joke character that is just so ridiculous that you cannot see it working with the setting, then the mods probably will not let you join. But
Mhm.
if they give you a way to make it work, then that means that there should be a believable level of immersion that's still accessible to everyone else in the RP, right?
Yeah.
So,
Mhm.
I think that that's fair. You might get annoyed if they break immersion in a way that's like not really as much a genre break as much as that's not as much as a mood break, but as a genre break. Like you can report that to mods, right? Like say, oh, I was trying to have a very serious soliloquy on, let's say, the deck of a ship, and then someone just burst in through the hull. Wouldn't the ship sink? The mod would come in. Like, that is very funny, but that is wrong.
Yeah, no, I was thinking like in a video game, right? Cutscenes, right?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Everyone's seen those. Like those characters with like custom equipables.
Uh-huh.
Like
Yeah.
imagine like the most serious looking like pirate ship, and then your character's dressed up as a Disney character, like
Yeah.
right smack dab in that character ship. Like it just, as a
Yes.
player, wouldn't you feel so weirded out by that?
No, exactly. Like, as I said, it's valid as an emotion, but in the end, it's up to the mods, in my opinion. Because, okay, as a player, and strictly as a player, I have
Yes.
felt that many times. As a player, of course, I've felt that many times. I'm not gonna drop names. I'm not like that. This isn't what this is. I'm not.
It's
dissing
me,
anyone.
isn't it?
Yeah,
it's you.
You're dropping
No.
it.
It's him. It's him.
There's always like players that there will be players in the pool that I'm not into that. I don't think it fits the setting, but you know what I do? I just don't talk to them. And, like, so because they should be allowed. They should be allowed to do what they like, is what I think.
We live in a free society.
Yeah, exactly. We live in a society. I think they should be allowed. If the mods let them, then let them. They can interact with people that would jive with them, or because some people might actually like that. They might think it's funny.
That is
They
true.
might be
That
there
is
to fuck around. And I want.
Ooh, the first
I want
swear.
them to
The
have
first
that
swear. It
freedom.
wasn't me. The first
I'll
swear.
edit
It
it
wasn't
in
me.
post.
Oh,
Here.
sure. If you
There's
make a
the duck
counter,
sound.
I don't care. I'm not say so. I don't care.
there's a duck counter. Like,
Yeah, it's just like here. You want me to give like a string of curses just to bring the duck counter up? I'll do it.
Quack
I don't
times
care.
200.
Quack, quack, quack.
10
Quack, quack,
times.
quack.
But yeah, like some people might just be there to fuck around, and I don't want to stop them from doing that because I think it's great if, like, especially if let's say in a situation that, what if in the real life situation they are already very sad? I don't want to make them have to be serious and sad in
I mean-
RP as well. They should
Yeah,
be
in
allowed
sort
to
of
be like the
Devil's
most
advocate. Okay, in sort of
confused.
devil's advocate.
Yeah, exactly. It's
Yeah.
just like,
Shouldn't you be going to therapy and not like forcing that out in a space?
I mean, like, but I think
Like,
the thing is,
It's
yeah.
no wait, it's like it's okay to be sad. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. Everyone gets sad, and there's nothing wrong with that. But like, when that sadness is sort of impacting itself on other people's enjoyment, isn't there something potentially wrong with that?
I think it is if it is imposed on them, not consensual. Like, again, we go back to trigger warnings here. Like, say, oh, I'm in a very bad place, so I don't want to interact with anybody that will like bring down my mood.
Mention
further.
this, and this.
Yeah, will mention this, and this, or even just generally be a downer. Like, I'm not gonna read any sad story posts. Don't read mine. Like, I'm not gonna read sad story posts if that's how it is. I'm not gonna interact with someone who will probably bring out like some sad emotions. I want to talk to someone fun. Then that's fair. And that's what the content warnings and trigger warnings should be for, and that's what that's also what's important here is also, just like in the real world, in RP you should be able to set your boundaries. You should be able to say, I'm gonna leave this thread because I'm not comfortable anymore. I'm gonna drop out of this event because it's stressing me out too much, that kind of thing. And I think that whatever it does to your fellow players, this is your boundary though. You have to adhere to it for your own well-being. You have to tell the mods, like, oh, I'm not in the right place for this. Can I do something that will let me drop out without inconveniencing anyone? You can, that kind of communication is important.
Yeah.
And in terms of like, also when you were saying like, shouldn't you just go to therapy instead of bringing it out over there? But the thing is, I think RP itself is a tool that shouldn't be limited to therapy. Like, as I said, this is creative therapy in its own way. Like, before going to see a therapist, maybe I just want to write something that'll help me feel better. Or maybe I want to write something that'll help me explore these emotions that I have. I'm not saying it's a replacement for a therapist, but it's something you can do before going to a therapist if you want, or something that your therapist would recommend to you after.
That's very
it's up
true.
to you, right?
I completely agree with that. It's just that, as City can speak for this. I'm not. Obviously, I didn't do my thesis on this, but
still a work in
neither did I.
I'm just like making some assumptions with a bit of general knowledge and all that. But it's just like, it's kind of dangerous because while some people, they might find it help, that writing and expressing feelings with other people helps, others could also find it potentially detrimental to their mental health,
So many people do, I will tell you now.
Exactly, right. So like,
as someone
I just
who's
find
been
it
on
like
the mod team.
it's hard. I just find it hard to like be able to really draw a boundary when a player should and when a player shouldn't,
I think,
because this is a very unrestricted kind of environment, it's that boundary is not very clear.
I think it's the bottom line is basically that with great power comes great responsibility. So watch watch Spider-Man No Way Home, you guys. It's fantastic. Just say, okay, wow.
Oh my god, I still have to
promo.
watch that.
It's really good. But really, you have to. There's every action has a consequence, and there's always the matter of taking responsibility for what you do, even in this fictional space. Like, I definitely hear what everybody has been saying, and it's really good. They're all valid points. As far as like where people's boundaries go, the more you get into this, really, you the more you realize that it's actually very difficult to monitor everybody individually, and so you as a player can't really do much to say, even if you say, hey, I didn't like that, but they continue to persist, it's becomes a choice of like, do you want to bring this up with more people involved, or do you just want to manage your own self about that? Sorry about that.
Like, the evil here is, I was just gonna say, like, the accountability and the evil here now lies in the autonomy of the players and the management of the mods than it is in the space itself of RP.
Yes.
Like, it's just a tool. It's not inherently good or bad, but can be misused.
It's how it's used.
Oh yeah, definitely. It's there's a lot of gray area, honestly, here. That's why when it comes to the community itself and trying to keep everybody amicable with each other, there is a little bit of a challenge, especially if you're in the mod team and you happen to be good acquaintances with like a bunch of the player pool. You have to look at it very objectively. Like, yes, I know that you wanted to, if we're going to use joke characters as an example, right? I did, like, for example, if you're a moderator and you let in this joke character, and for some reason they seem to be causing a little bit more chaos than intended, then you're gonna have to exert a sort of objective decision on whether you should take some, you should ask them to like rein it in a little bit, or if you just let them continue to be as destructive as their character intended. But here is the clincher here is really knowing that, or trusting that the person knows that the character they have just created is not them. There is definitely a boundary between those two entities. And what makes it difficult is, this is scientifically proven too. I have this source on my research paper. Let me give you a second. Here.
Oh, let's go. Fact.
It's by,
Science.
there's this article by Kohei Nomura and Seiki Akai. It's called Empathy with Fictional Stories, Reconsideration of the Fantasy Scale of the Interpersonal Reactivity Index. And basically, it stresses the point that the empathy for real people and fictional characters are similar. Like, so the amount of feelings people can generate for fictional people is the same as real people. And this is either a very good thing or a problem depending on how you look at it. Because in RP, that allows you to generate some very authentic interactions. So that's why ships between OCs make you feel really like kilig, or have fluttery feelings, or be like, oh, I really love this. Or why you get invested in like the tragic backstory of an NPC or something like that. But it also makes it difficult to separate the character from their roleplayer, because you get the same amount of emotional receptivity. So I think that's also the challenge here, is trying to separate it as a player. But again, I know that this is a conversation that we keep having time and time again, especially when new instances of the boundary crossing come up. And
Yeah,
I think
I would
that's
say most
most?
issues and
Most mod issues.
most player concerns arise from when this boundary feels threatened, you know.
yeah, that's true. And I know you touched on like trigger warnings earlier. There's another source, but it's like I had
Go
the,
ahead.
No,
bring in the
no.
science, girl.
No, it's not science.
This is
this
why
time.
you did the thesis.
No.
This
Hey,
is why you're here.
Actually, fun fact about that thesis, that's like I overhauled my proposal 3 times, and I crammed that one right before I had to leave for a vacation. So I finished the proposal in 1 day, even if it would take usually a whole month. So I was just like,
You know,
yeah,
The academic
know,
life,
the
you know.
A win is a win.
I can't
okay?
even
A win is a
complain.
win.
I can't even
Yeah,
complain
yeah,
because
yeah.
I chose to
Yeah,
be
yeah.
in this school. No, just
And
kidding.
you
I
did
chose
great,
this
you know,
life.
I'm sure
I
you
chose
did
this
great. I
life.
have confidence. Yeah, it's
Thank
fine.
you. I'll let you guys
You
read
can
it
do
when
it.
it comes out. Let me, give me a few more months to finish it.
I believe
But
in you.
I
Thank
want
you.
it now.
Oh well, too bad. Sucks to be you, I guess.
Oof.
No. Okay. So this other one is more like in terms of the trigger warnings, because a lot of people, it's kind of like I'm gonna create the analogy with the word depression. You know how nowadays, because of like the doomer humor and the dark, the macabre, what is it? You resonate with that?
No,
dark
I
humor.
don't know
Everyone-
anything about that.
every-
What are you talking about?
Resident doomer, everybody. There's that, for example, where someone says, like, "Hey, how are you doing?" You'd be like, "Oh, I'm fine. I'm just a little depressed," and everybody just goes. Nowadays, everyone's just like, "You're not depressed. You're just really sad." So they have to have this exact terminology for it, and I'm like, okay, I can understand that, because depression really is a condition. It's something that must be addressed. But I think in the sense of trigger warnings, there was actually I don't know if it's been at least manifested before, but in this game that I got to play with a bunch of friends called Wickedness, it's like a tabletop, again, a table narrative RPG. You don't use dice, you use a tarot card deck, and the maximum number of players is 3. And it was developed by this person called M. Veselak. I'm trying to figure out what the M in his name stands for, or their name, but I don't know. I can't find it. Anyway, it's just initial M and then Veselak. And there's like a whole chapter about rules and touching on player boundaries. And one of the nicest sections I found in that is defining, or at least the difference between a trigger and an oof. Okay, so you have those 2 words. Yeah, no, seriously, they use that word.
That's a
Right,
new
like,
one.
no, that
That's
makes a
a
lot
new
of
one.
sense.
No, I get you. I get you.
So
That's-
the way
That is
So the-
distinct.
It is distinct, right? So the way that was the short form of that basically is that a trigger is something that you have like a negative reaction to something that happens in the game, and it impacts you significantly in a way that makes you very uncomfortable to proceed. Like it kind of, I don't want to say it cripples you because that's also another conversation, but it kind of hinders you from enjoying the game, right? So there's that. But then an oof is an event that happens in, like, a reaction that you have to something that happens in the game, but it's good pain. Like it's like a negative. It's like a positive reaction to a negative thing because it kind of gives the potential for character development, because not all the experiences in even fictional universe are positive. Sometimes you need the negative things to happen for your character to experience a significant amount of growth. So the way that M. Veselak describes it in his game, or their game rather, is that an oof is a situation wherein you do feel uncomfortable, but you're not triggered. Is this making sense? I hope
It's
it
the
is.
moment when you put F's in the chat, you know?
Yes. Okay. There.
Yeah,
it is. Okay.
yeah.
I like that
I
better.
was gonna say that's a good
So you're
analogy.
like,
It's kind of like, oh, this person died, F, but it's not. You can still proceed with the story. You're not deterred from it. Whereas, for example, somebody brings up like several counts of, sorry, trigger warning, trypophobia, and you're just like, oh god, please take that down. I don't want to see it. And they'll be like, no, sorry, we need this to continue the story. Then you just feel so appalled or deterred by the image.
Yeah.
You're just like, no.
No, I get you. I get you.
Mm-hmm.
Especially for specifically trypophobia. That's my problem.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Don't search it up, please. Don't search it up, guys.
No, I know. No, I know I have it because
Okay,
I've
wait.
seen the images.
For
I'm
people
like,
in the
"Ooh."
chat to know, so that they don't Google it, trypophobia is a
Don't
fear
Google
of
it.
small holes. So you don't have to Google it. You might discover you have a phobia, but basically it's a lot of small holes. Okay, so
I blame
just don't
Junji Ito.
Look at a lotus
I love Junji
plant
Ito.
without the pods. That's what we're
or a honeycomb. Even,
or a
actually.
honeycomb.
It's a
That's
honeycomb.
one of the
Like,
most simple
I
ones.
find it so weird that some honeycomb I can look at and look fine,
Yeah,
but
I'm
then there
fine
are
with
other ones
honeycomb.
I'm just like,
I think it's geometric. Maybe if it's
yeah,
more...
it's like when it's the geometric patterns, like it
It's
just gets
fine.
really like, ugh.
I'm fine with the geometric patterns. If they're circles, I get put off. I don't know, because it looks...
Really?
It looks
so interesting.
more
That's a
orga-
conversation for another day. I will
Sorry
speak
about
to you
that.
about this offline.
But no, but that's the core of it, really. So all you can do is manage your own reactions, and I guess it goes back to what you guys were talking about earlier about feelings versus the action. Because again, like this is
Yeah.
basic preschool knowledge. Everyone's just like, it's okay to be mad, just don't hit your classmates, something like that.
Yeah, exactly. If
Basic.
you feel very triggered by something, then you can report it and ask to be taken down. Just don't lash out at someone as if they intended it.
Yeah, so I guess a good way to go about this moving forward would be always, well, try to give people the benefit of the doubt, and don't always assume that they're going after you just because maybe they just wanted to play a character who's an absolute, like,
Asshole.
okay, I didn't want to say that, but yeah.
No, go ahead. Like,
Go-
and this is very relevant, like, to me. Like, a lot of the times, like, some people wonder, like, I know that I've been asked, like, in private as a questions, and this is not, like, in a super serious confrontational way, okay? It was really more like a thing, like, they were asking, like, how it's amazing. They were saying that it's amazing that I can play characters that are real assholes because they're, like,
Yeah.
afraid of getting disliked or upsetting people, and I'm like, but it's literally my job. I'm the antagonist. Like, I don't mind. If you hate me, then I'm doing it right.
Yeah. There's
I
definitely
don't feel upset by it.
there's
You
definitely
know?
like a different.
You know, there are those characters that you're supposed to hate, right?
Yeah.
And if you're
some-
not, you don't hate them. That character's not being played right.
Yeah, and in that same sense, but when playing an asshole character, though, you're not there to trigger people, but you're there to bring forward very uncomfortable topics. Like, you know, there is a difference from, like, say you know that someone has trypophobia. Just because you're an asshole doesn't mean you're gonna throw a beehive at them or something. Like,
Yeah, yeah.
Just develop holes to start a visceral reaction. But you can say like thematically, let's say if you're let's pretend. I'm sorry, we're using trypophobia as a thing now because it's just the easiest.
I brought it up. I'm sorry.
No, I mean because we can use it because we're not bringing forth the image here, so it's not triggering.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
But like in the example of trypophobia, if say you were a villain who in a horror RP, let's say, then
Yeah.
Just looking at the chat. Anyway,
No,
let's
keep
say
going.
that you're
Trigger
in the
warning
RP.
holes. Yes.
Yeah, you're
I had-
in an RP
oh my
that's
God.
a horror, and then you're supposed to be a villain character who is thematically, let's say, full of
Horrifying.
holes and like horrifying, like
Ooh.
trypophobia, viscerally. Then
Because that's how they're supposed to look, right? They're supposed to evoke
Yeah,
this
exactly.
naturally disgusted reaction from people, and if they say that's disgusting, good, I did it right.
Yeah,
yeah,
that's the point.
but at the same time, because in terms of player responsibility over other people's absence, you're not supposed to go in there triggering people. What you do as a player now is leave trigger warnings in the front. Like, don't leave it as the header so that people can avoid looking at it. That's like those are the little things that you can do to be a good person and player while still effectively being the most like disgusting visceral asshole. You leave it somewhere that
Agreed.
people can still avoid it, and make sure to put a
Mhm.
warning. It's that
I think
simple.
that's so important for players. Like,
Yeah,
this thing
exactly.
triggers me, but when there's a trigger warning right before what triggered you, that's kind of your fault.
Yeah. And
You
if
went
you-
in
eh,
without
yeah.
reading what this whole thing was about.
Yeah, and if there was no appropriate warning, then the player is now allowed and very much justified in bringing it up as a concern with the moderator, right? So yeah, I think that's the line in the space, and like, yeah.
Mhm.
No, I was just saying that that's the important line that needs to be drawn, like, for the players. For so that you can retain the quality of the experience while still being a good person and a good player, and being responsible for and considerate of other people's emotions, because this is a fictional space, but the emotions that they feel are real. So
Mhm.
giving them a way to avoid it is so important, like a way to involve themselves in a way that they're comfortable. Let's say that it's a very important event, but it does involve trypophobia, and they want to be involved in the plot, but they can't stand trypophobia. Then what the mod can do is like tell them a summary of events, or tell them to copy paste a specific post with pertinent information, just so that the player at least knows what happened without having to expose themselves to the whole thing.
Mhm.
Yeah, so like, this is the line. And actually relating this to something else that is on the agenda, which is like the relation to the plot, whether it's like happy or sad, because some plots will be just generally triggering and very upsetting. Not everything is happy. Like some player, like I had this discussion with an RPer, and I won't drop names again, but this is because they were confiding in me that they found the RP experience like very upsetting for them, because they didn't like how the plot was going. Like they thought that it was important for an RP to have a certain sense of progression and victory, because if the whole plot is just sad, then it's not a good RP experience. Like that's what they said. They told me that it's not a good RP experience if it just makes them sad. And I said that I disagree, because I think that that's also very cathartic and important to be able to experience and explore very hopeless and sad themes in a fictional space, and to be able to RP it and not just read it. Because if I read it, I don't have any part in it, my involvement isn't the same. But that distance, because I consent to it. So I think this is something that I ended up bringing up in a later admin meeting, where I was saying that genre tags need to also have warnings on the emotional aspect and general pace of an RP, because some players will not want to go into something where they will feel is very stressful and high-paced, or will come out badly for them. So like if, say, you risk a bad end, you need to put that in the warnings of the RP before people sign up, so that they know what they're signing up for. Because I think that's part of it, right? Like, your relation to the RP as an emotional experience, you need to be warned, just like a trigger warning.
For sure, but like, there are some situations where, for example, this is a personal anecdote that sometimes stories don't exactly develop the
Oh, yeah,
way they were
definitely.
supposed to, right? There's situations that out of nowhere, it kind of like, it's like you look both ways before crossing the road and you get hit by an
Mhm.
airplane. Like, how do you predict or prevent something like that from
Mm,
happening?
I think
You know? Like, no matter like what kind of warnings you can have in advance, it's not that it's bad, right? It's that it's
Mhm,
not
mhm.
foolproof, right? Like,
No, I think that's an interesting point as well, because I know that I mentioned like how this ability to connect with the fictional character, and in turn also feel get the visceral reactions from what the characters are experiencing as well, because that's the natural tendency of empathy. Um, it's
mhm.
that aspect of like spontaneity in RP is something that you can't really get in novels, because those ones are already pre-planned. They're already they're already written out. Like
100%.
movies,
Mhm.
100%.
already pre-planned. Actors have their scripts. The scripts are pre-written. All they have to do is just act it out. Yes, there is some creative liberty. Like you'll see compilations of people, like especially who is it? All those different actors like improving their and like doing improv on their lines, but that's an anomaly. It's not the norm. But in RP, that's the norm, and which is why when
That's true.
there is too much of a structure, everybody gets confused, because they're like, I thought I could influence the plot or the story in this way. It turns out I am actually following a template. And actually, that was a discussion that was raised about in our we had like I think it was like the survey form. If you guys haven't seen the survey form ever yet, I recommend you take a look. It is full of interesting questions that you feel like you might want to answer, and one of them is actually asking for your opinion about the kind of RP format that you prefer. And we're not talking about like whether it's text-based or literature-based or all that stuff, but it's more of like, do you prefer being led by the plot, or do you prefer to lead the plot? Something like that. Because this also helps moderators in the future to figure out stories that they can present while also telling the story that they want. There's like a lot of balancing out, figuring out here.
Yeah, for sure. It's also really interesting because the community itself is it's a combination of leaders and followers. Not everyone is a follower, so they lead, and not everyone's a leader, so they follow. And it's just that the RP is such a melting pot where these
Mhm.
characteristics of the people or their characters get drawn, you know. And I just have to really commend the mod team for being able to
Mhm.
balance how much players can influence the plot
Yeah.
with those who just want to kind of go along with the flow, Like, that is
No, I was
think
just gonna
it's
say, like, I
oh,
think
yeah,
that
go ahead, sorry.
it's always a very interesting thing to play with, because it's also, honestly something that's influenced by the community that you're in. Like, as we go on, I think both players and mod teams know in
Yeah.
increasing pattern how much players take initiative and how much that they want to sit back. With and without the survey form. The survey form was important because it's to see the player intent, but in terms of trends, we start to see it too. We'll see
Mhm.
certain players that just naturally like to take the
Mhm.
lead and immerse themselves, and there are some players who really sit back and avoid as much as possible because they just want to enjoy themselves and interact with other players, right? So, and this also relates
Mhm,
to that level of empathy you were speaking of, because like since this empathy that you have for the fictional character extends not only to other characters but your own, then you choose how much
Mhm.
you want to immerse your character and put them in situations that can be potentially stressful for them, because you'll get stressed too, It's
That's
that
true.
kind of thing.
Yeah, I get stressed writing it because I have to do.
Yeah, you're just like, oh my god, why did I involve myself in this plot? I'm dying here.
that
It's a
person who
lot of
knows
investment.
that they get over acidic when they drinks coffee. Why is my heart palpitating?
For
Yeah,
research.
that kind of thing. It's like you need to know your own boundaries, and like you have to realize that empathy doesn't extend just for like the characters around you, but your own character as well. I mean, like, I admittedly have a low level of empathy, and it's probably why it's so easy for me to play an asshole and not mind if they get hated, because like,
You're
I don't
outing
care if you
yourself.
hate them. I don't feel any of it.
Oh my
It's
god.
just an easy detachment for me, which is a good thing, I guess. But like, for some people that's not the case, and I think this also ties into another thing that we consider a very big issue in terms of RP, is that some people don't know how to like draw the line and extract themselves from that space even after the RP is over and stuff, you know. Like some people will have RP hangover, which I think is like a term that's loosely used sometimes when people discuss it, but like they'll not be over their character, they'll want more, they'll start RPing it in other situations, but they might also start bringing up drama from something that happened like way earlier in the RP because they're not done leaving that fictional space, and they're carrying those emotions with them into the real world on themselves. And it's bad because they're not done, but the plot itself is. So there's nowhere for that energy to go. There's nowhere for those feelings to resolve.
Yeah,
It's like so bad.
the withdrawals are real. Oh my god, guys, maybe this is an
like
addiction.
Like, but I think some people would be addicted to RP, you could say, which is, I mean, like, you know, if you're listening to this and you think
You're
we're
one of
talking
those?
about you might want to you might want to reconsider your RP career, because that might mean that this isn't
Oh
healthy
my
for
God.
you, man. Like, I
Get
hate to
some
be
help.
the bearer of bad news, but
No, I think, well, it's like everything, you know, everything in moderation. I guess
yeah,
it's just,
it's important.
it's just even, it's just more attractive of an outlet now, especially because with the whole pandemic and all that isolation and social distancing. And it's the fact that a channel like this exists to make it very easy to interact with other people without leaving your house. And I know the internet does that already, but even more so when you have a community that you're invested in. It will kind of compel you to participate more because of that you lack that aspect already in the
real world.
I don't want to say the real
The
world
real world.
outside of your
No,
house.
go ahead and say it. It's true.
Okay, yeah,
though.
that's true.
In
The real world.
like physically, and in real life situations, there's just not as much stimulus.
Yeah, that's
And
true.
like, I mean, like, this is why a lot of people are trying new online games and stuff.
For sure.
Cathartic.
I mean, Genshin came in with the perfect boom.
Actually, it did.
for
That's
when everyone
very
was
good
locked
timing.
in their homes.
Yeah.
Right? Exactly.
Now they're rich.
So, yeah, now they're rich. I mean, don't get me wrong, I love MiHoYo, I'm so happy for them. But honestly, the timing from Genshin is like,
Couldn't have been any better.
If I wasn't like,
yeah, it's
yeah,
impeccable.
it was just like
impeccable timing.
almost sus, but like it's not.
They know
It's
something
like,
that we
and-
did.
That's too good.
And actually, that
Here's
also
the
brings
theory.
up an. Oh, no, go ahead. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just joking around. Don't worry.
No. I was just gonna say it's actually a good this is a good way to actually close off the discussion today, is to talk about that impeccable timing of the situation, because
And how the pandemic has affected it.
well, sort of, and also in terms of like the RP, because like I mentioned that we only have 2 public role plays for this chapter, and because we opted to give people a break in between, since role playing is playing after all, what are you guys' opinion of when to stop playing? When is it a good idea to stop playing or take yourself out of the RP space?
Honest.
To take a hiatus.
Wait, do
and
you mean
everything.
like from RPing itself or from a specific RP?
I think in general, when do you know when it's time to take a break?
Like from anything, or from RP,
From
like, either within that, like during an RP, or from RPing in general, for both.
Actually, yeah, you're right. Because some people do really get invested in the particular
Yeah.
universe,
yeah.
and then they don't ever leave it.
Yeah.
Okay, so maybe on RP, like a
Okay, in an ongoing RP,
yeah.
for me
when-
it's mostly like, for example, if you have IRL things that you really have to do, like I don't know, a job, a thesis, maybe you should wean back on the RP a little. Like I get that it's important to have things that de-stress you from those things, and RPs can definitely be one of those. But at the same time, too much of anything is always bad, right?
Yeah.
Even if it's a de-stressor, like if you're RPing 6 hours a day when you're supposed to be working, like that's not
Like
great.
what? Like what? You
what?
Like what? Hmm? You were gonna say something.
These
there.
are hey, I never said this is a personal anecdote, okay? I never said anything, okay? Don't put words in my mouth.
Okay, but allowing for a personal anecdote, and I'll speak about this from like experience in both ways. I think that the important thing is also I think it's a really hard question to put generally, because this is something that you need
100%.
to introspect on. Like, you really need to know yourself to know where your boundaries are. And again, I'm saying the personal anecdote because I remember in my first one, I was really into it, and like I would stay up until 4 a.m. answering stuff, and I didn't mind. Honestly, I didn't care. I mean, like, I slept late.
Oh my god.
But like,
Okay.
it was only, I would only add maybe 1 or 2 hours.
I
So,
don't,
like,
so that's shocking. to
Personally
me.
speaking, see, this is why it's a personal anecdote. This might not apply to everybody.
I was,
right?
I answered at 4 a.m. because it was my first RP. I was very excited. And then it happened to coincide, my second RP coincided with real life things at a very low point in my life. Like, I was very low. And I think that my RP that time was also especially sad. And like, but at the same time, it was an escape. And like, I don't think anything unhealthy happened from the habit of RPing itself.
Mhm.
Because then after that, I think I didn't RP. Because after that, I was like, I need to take a break. So I did. And that's because I knew myself. And, I knew that there was that boundary that I could have. And now I'm back on the RP scene. And like, I come and go depending on how much time I think I have and how available I think I am. And like, I've noticed it's an accidental pattern, but like I noticed that for a while my pattern was 2 RPs, then I don't join the next one.
Oh.
And it's just like, it just means
That's
that I
good.
need like a
That's
break to
regula-
recharge each time.
That's regulation.
Dude, I totally feel
Yeah.
you. I feel you. Mine was usually every other RP.
Yeah, exactly. Like, sometimes you just you need to know yourself. Like, see, for Ollie, it was like every other RP he needed a break, and that's fine. Like, I stop every 2, and then we have people like Sarah who are like, everywhere all the time.
What is break?
Hi, Sarah.
Yeah.
What is break?
But she's fine. And she's like, I know that for a while she was also thinking like, oh, should it be like this? But she thinks about her boundaries and considers them herself. Don't worry, okay? Anyone who's thinking like listening to this and saying, is Sarah okay? I'm telling you now, she thinks
She's
about
okay.
it. Don't worry. Yeah, she's okay.
She's okay.
She's not like ignoring herself. She considers her well-being very thoughtfully. And it's like, so there is no general rule. Because what's important is that you need to know your rules. You need to know your
It's a
availability.
subjective experience.
Yeah. But what's important is that you need to know that there should be one. Like, you need to know that there should be a boundary. Because the problem is that some people will not realize that. Some people will think, no, it's okay, I'm an exception. Like, I can keep going and, like, I won't care. And it's like, no, that's not true. Even Sarah thinks about, like, oh, I shouldn't join that one because I need to conserve my energy. See, even she does it. Come on. Like, she's everywhere and she does it.
Wow,
So you
this
need
is like
to
this
as
is
well.
the standard. If even Sarah
Even-
has to consider this,
Yeah.
what
It's a
about
public
you?
emergency.
Yeah, then you need to think about it, guys. Like, everyone is, we are, as chuny as you want to be, you're mortal, and you need to,
Okay, that's
I don't know how to feel about this, but
Uh-oh.
okay.
I mean,
You're
like,
making all-
you need to think about your mortal limits. We're all getting, and that's another thing that we have brought up sometimes in the admin team. We're getting old. We are
are.
aging. Everyone
Again
is
with the-
We are
slowly
aging.
aging. We're not young anymore. We don't have the same energy that we used to, man. Like,
Uh-huh.
it's,
And then there are the people who just newly joined the community. Every RP, let's go.
Yeah, they're
Gremlins.
very
There's a lot
energetic
of
'cause
you.
they're-
I appreciate and I am full of admiration for people who can just keep doing that.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
fine. As long as, like what you guys said, as long as you know your limits.
and
Awareness
that you realize
is
that
the
you have
first.
limits.
Oh yeah, that's true. That's another thing. You don't just
Don't
say, okay,
Icarus your way to the sun, my dude.
I have this limit. I'm going to remove this limit.
Limit
No.
break.
Don't do this. No.
We aren't in a shonen manga, guys. We aren't in a shonen
Please
manga.
don't do that. Oh my god, I'm sorry. I am the weeb in this call.
okay.
Actually, I think I'm the most weeb, but yes.
Now you're gonna have to edit the effect that go behind that statement.
Oh, yeah. All right. I'm the effects person. I'll just,
Effects
like,
person. Let's see how that sounds.
I don't
in
think
post.
we'll get like copyrighted for me using all my voice for 5 seconds, right? Yeah, we will. It's
Nah,
like 5
that's
seconds.
fine.
You should
Don't
probably
worry about
Google just in case. You never know.
No.
Jeff.
I know that the copyright rule is like 30 seconds or something.
Really?
There's
Yeah,
a
you
really
can't-
I know
30 seconds.
DMCA rules are really
Yeah,
touchy,
jeez.
especially on
Yeah.
YouTube.
God.
Exactly. Don't worry. It'll be really quick and it'll be far in the background, so it probably won't be picked up anyway. It's okay.
Uh-huh.
Anyway,
No, but
So,
that's
yeah.
yeah, that's definitely a good way of looking at it. Again, like always, awareness is always the first step. As long as you
City, what's your sort of framework for how you RP?
for how I
Like,
RP.
yeah,
I-
when you take breaks, when you
I
stop
clown
RPing.
myself. No, just kidding. So my and I guess this is well, I know that we probably have to. We've been talking quite a lot about this, but when I roleplay, it's more like I think my motivation is really just the character dynamic. Because again, I have been drawing my own OCs since the beginning, and naturally that would make me have a deeper relationship with them from the start. And so when the thing is that I really, really, really enjoy making new characters every time an RP comes out. It's just that I know physically I can't commit to role-playing in that space at that time, especially because I always like look to the future for responsibility and everything. So I'm always able to factor in how much time it's going to take.
I'm so proud
And-
of you.
I try, okay? And also,
So proud.
I'm now living in a different time zone, which means every time you guys have your formals, it's flipped for me, so it's in the morning. So I'm just like, okay, if that happens, then I'm probably at work and I won't be able to commit unless it's the weekend.
This is a limiter, yeah?
That is a limit. It's a good limit, I think, because it gives me all the more motivation to consider how invested I am in the roleplay. But then the thing is that I like making OCs. So the best piece of advice that I received, which is also something that kind of like, oh my hubris, I can feel it shattering, is just make a character for every RP, even if you don't play them. I'm just like, but if I make them, I have to do something with them.
Yeah.
So, and then I just end up RPing just because of that. And most of the time, it's very minimal interaction. So in the past RPs that the most recent roleplays that I've been a part of, I've always been trying to keep myself in the background. If I don't roleplay at all, then I have minimal interaction because I want to be part of I really like the community because there's so much meme potential and I love memes.
Oh god.
It's
Oh,
understandable,
let's not get
understandable.
started on memes. Let's not get started on
That's
memes.
a whole different episode altogether.
Yeah.
God. But
Oh my
that
God,
is.
an episode dedicated to RP memes.
I like
Oh,
that.
no.
That's a good idea. It's kind of
Oh,
scary
no.
too, though. But right.
That's
But
terrifying.
I guess just to answer that question, I think the way that I roleplay is as spontaneous as roleplay itself because I can never
Ooh,
tell.
wow. Look at that.
But like, it's also important to know that that's okay.
Yeah,
Exactly,
definitely.
Because
Yeah.
like
There's
some
no
peop-
right or wrong way, really.
I think that
Mhm.
this relates to, and like I guess just like bring it like into a bigger scale, like relating it to the community. A lot of why people would be continuously active and then end up burning out is that fear of missing out. You know,
Yeah.
like yeah, it's just that they were scared to miss out on interactions and to not be part of something and to feel like they wasted their time and effort on a character. But like they felt like obligated to be part of that just so that they don't miss out on stuff. It's a bad cycle and something that you need to be self-aware of, and that's why introspect and know your boundaries. So like
Mhm.
you know, you feel like that relating to that your need to like do something with the character is probably part of that. But then you know you see it for what it is, and now you're thinking it over and you're like, you know what? Yeah, at least, you know, the compromise there was to just keep the interaction to a minimum so that you don't overcommit.
It's
And
so
that's
frustrating.
No, but
But-
it's healthy, and that's what's important.
It's healthy.
Truly,
healthy.
truly.
I am just very tired all the time, so I have to work around that.
Yeah.
That's a mood. That's a mood.
I
Oh,
mean,
God.
I get it. I get it.
No, that's God.
Adding my own personal anecdote to that once again, and I'm just that kind of anecdotal person, I'm sorry.
That's
But
fine.
like I remember one time when I had so much work to do, they gave me like last minute deadlines and I was ready to like scream and cry because it was like finale or something. And I was
Oh.
like, and I have 6 days a week for work, right? So I
Uh-huh.
was working on a Saturday and it was finale. And I was like, you know what? I'm tired. So I took a break and just finished finale.
Oh,
and I
no.
didn't care that I had some
I was like, oh,
Oh,
my
no.
god. I was
But-
like, I took a break from RP to finish work.
Yeah,
that's
no,
what
no,
I
no,
mean.
no,
I
no,
took
no.
a
The
break from
twist
work to
plot
finish
then.
RP. Because
No.
you know what?
The twist plot.
And you know what? It was good for me. I felt so much
Oh,
better and ready
exactly.
to work
Okay.
after that. So
I'm happy to hear it.
sometimes you just need to know what's okay for you.
So sometimes it sounds like sometimes the break can be RP, but only for some
Yeah.
people.
Sometimes.
Sometimes.
Irresponsibility
Sometimes.
is being responsible.
God.
Yeah, sometimes you need to know your limit. Like, yeah, sometimes it's important to take a break from RP and prioritize real life, but sometimes you kind of do need RPs. It's a good escape. It's healthy,
good-
actually.
Catharsis is healthy and
Yeah, the
Yeah.
catharsis is healthy. It was my resolution. Okay.
Nice.
Yeah.
yeah, and on that
Right, I
subject of
think that's
boundaries,
A great thing.
definitely. We understand that this episode might have run a little bit longer, but we hope
Weensy.
we hope you guys were able to take some things away from this. Like, this is like we got into so many different kinds of discussions all at once. But just for context, we are trying to do 4 episodes per season.
We are?
Yeah,
Yeah,
4
yeah.
yeah, and I think
This is
the way we
episode 2.
wanted to, and if you notice, we don't have anybody else except us 3 with us today, because we're trying to do like a format for odd-numbered episodes will be geared towards specific role plays, and even-numbered episodes will be about RP in general, so you can expect that to be mostly a conversation between us, your hosts. And then that being said, the next episode will actually be focusing on, what did we have in mind again? We're gonna be talking about
YZ.
Arc.
Arc and
Arc.
Year
Arc and
Zero.
Yes,
So-
our sci-fi RPs early on. Like,
Yes,
Our
we're gonna be-
earlier ones.
We're going to be focusing on the question, why is the apocalypse genre so attractive, and do androids dream of eclectic memes? Thank you, everybody, and we hope to see you in the next
Oh my
episode.
God.
Bye, everyone.
Thanks,
That was
bye.
a discussion.
Thanks for listening.
Thank you.
Good night. Good night.
Good
Bye.
night. Good night.
Good
Good
night.
morning.
Good morning.
Good.
Good riddance.
Good whenever you are
Good
listening
morning,
to
good
this.
evening, and good night.
Good night. Bye.
Smooth.
Alright.
Smooth.
Chatterbox is brought to you by Lacie's Box, an online role-playing community. Music by Damien Draw, sound editing by me, Arcane Halo, and CittiSparks. Today's episode was episode 2, Why is RP? If you like this show and want to hear more, you can find it at Lacie's Box on YouTube. For more information on Lacie's Box, go to our Facebook page at facebook.com/Lacie's Box.
We forgot to talk about formats. Oh well, stay tuned for that some other time.